why has this team been so good maybe at adjusting over the years?
It's just a necessary, I don't know, skill, but certainly for survival in the playoffs. It's just on the straight runs of nobody's gone 16-0 as far as I know. So everybody's going to suffer a defeat. You're always going to have a game that you don't like, and rebounding, learning from it. Even if it's not the critical piece to the next game, you'll always come back to it. There'll be a loss in there that'll really help you going forward.
Sam Bennett out there with the group, just what does that do for him in terms of his trend toward?
Yeah, he's closing in. He's close now. It's one of the next 3 games for sure, I think.
Did you talk to anybody after he was done, or get an update or anything of the sort?
Yeah, there'll be nothing changed from what happened on the ice unless he had a major setback, which we're not expecting. So he'll be out there. We'll see how he's feeling. It's more just doctors and things of that nature signing off, taking a look at it.
You said there are some things you don't like in a game. What are the main things you didn't like about your team last night that you want to?
It's just the coaching.
The coaching?
Yeah, that's my job. Right. I didn't mind the way we started. I thought we were good in the first 10. And then the second 10, I didn't love it, but understood it, why. Like we had 110, they had 109 points. I mean, we're almost identical, really good road teams, pretty good home teams. The game's 1-1 with about 6 minutes left to go in the second period. Shots are pretty even. I'm fine with that. World domination has never been our calling card. We're not high flying. We should be hard hitting and competing. So I didn't love parts of our game, but we went into very specific detail today in 2 parts where we think we can be a world better. We think that we have been over the course of the year. We're not adding something new to our game to combat something. We just weren't good in a couple areas. But I understand it's the right question to ask. There's like no strategic value in me listing the 2 things that I think we need to be way better at. I just thought the challenge that we had was repetitive. It was something that happened on a fairly frequent basis that I think we can be better at.
At the same time, Paul, if you look at high danger scoring chances, you're way up there last night compared to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much do you look at the big picture sometime and say, hey, if I look at the stats, it says that we still did something?
Yeah, we only look at analytics if we like them. No, it's not true. That's like the opposite is true, as a matter of fact. So we have harder analytics. Everybody's got kind of the standard group that they use, and then every team now has their own group. Ours are always tougher on us than the kind of somewhat public analytics. And they were still pretty. If you looked at the analytics, you thought we'd had a better game. But that game's 1-1 late in the second. So we lost. They deserved to win the game. They finished on their chances. We didn't. But that's not the important story of the game. The important story for us is where do we got to get better to be a good hockey team. I mean, I'm lucky now that I can look back and say I survived it. Right? Very frustrating because there's some really good coaches that probably never have long tenures because they don't coach teams that are capable of really getting better fast. It's just true. So you can do a real fine job by getting a team close to the playoffs or maybe over the hump every once in a while. What you need to do as a young coach is you need to work for men that understand the game, and they have to have broad shoulders. So we use Jim Rutherford and Pete Carmanis as an example. Man, I turned that job down 3 times because I knew I wasn't ready. I also knew the team wasn't very good. But, they said, take the job. You won't be any good, but you'll learn. We'll get better. And we didn't make the playoffs the first 3. There's not very many markets that you can survive and miss the playoffs, but we just weren't very good. And we got better, so you survive it. But it's a tough profession for sure in that. And what you find is there are people that might fall into coaching and end up loving it. But for the most part, the love will precede you becoming a head coach in the NHL. And it's necessarily because you won't survive to get there unless you love it. So for most people, my story is completely different and weird as hell. But that's a lot of days on buses. And you get a first crack in the National Hockey League and you lose that job, there's not another NHL out there for you to go get hired in. There's 32 of these jobs. That's like not a lot of jobs in your line of work. So the only positive is if you can get fired enough times, you can make a career out of it. And for every coach that gets fired, another one gets hired. So tough business. Could have been a doctor.
Do you think I mean, it's almost the same for players. Like, I look at Verhaeghe, that kid Brazeau yesterday.
Right.
These guys were on buses 2-3 years ago
Yeah.
in the ECHL.
So those are probably maybe even better numbers,
Yeah.
because the idea of the life as an NHLer, and you hear that line occasionally, all those millionaires. Well, a big chunk of them aren't. But by the time they get to 29 years old, they haven't really been in university. They haven't been starting their real estate, lawyer, whatever career all your buddies started when they were 18 to 22, you didn't. It's a big risk for the average person, right? For the average player, the guy who plays 300 games, which is a lot, right? I don't know what the number is when you factor in the guy that plays one, and then you've got the Patrick Marleaus of the world, the guys with the big numbers, what the average number is for players. But you make an incredible life investment in this. For coaches, yeah, we do the occasional business speech, but it doesn't really translate to a lot of other businesses other than sports is competitive. For players too, you're not saying, hey, the hockey thing's not working out. I think I'll start my psychiatry career. Like you put a big risk in. There's a huge risk, right? You're a small business owner and you're trying to survive.
Can I just ask you about Lundell? He's moved up before when there's been injuries, and
Yeah.
now he's been playing up there with Reinhart and Houston. What have you seen in him? And is there still more offense in there? Or
Yeah.
You just kind of settled that this is who he is. I mean, it's only
Oh no, he's too young.
Yeah, exactly.
He's way too young. So last year, well, we could go back 2 years ago, and he scored a bunch, and he played with Marchment and Reinhart quite a bit that year. He's also a healthy scratch in the playoffs. That's not a character flaw, a weakness. He was just young.
Right.
So last year he plays the full run. He gets into the 3-hole. We have a pretty good run. And at times the other team was looking for, there's the young guy, right? You got Bennett and Barkov. We got the lead. You got to go and get after the kid. He was really, really good. So I'm a fan of his. I'm also mindful that he's still young. He's got there's a huge difference between 24 and 27. First, they all got to forget all the things they learned when they were 19, when they scored, 100 points in a year, and then the NHL doesn't let you do that. And then the heavy, hard things that come with being a center iceman. It's a big year for him, right? His numbers weren't happening for him, but he's grinding now, so I'm happy for him.
Probably kind of an obvious question, but just how big of a difference in team attitude and momentum or anything is it? If you guys are going to go to Boston, at 1-1 or potentially down 2-0.
Yeah, each game has its own vibe, its own feel. The road's been a good place for us. Always kind of has been. It gets us back to our game a little bit. But you want to go in 1-1, right? You don't want to go down 0-2. I mean, I'm sure Pete DeBoer was really excited about providing entertainment for the rest of the hockey world, but given his choice, he wouldn't have gone to Game 7, except he's lights out in Game 7. So we're going to do everything we possibly can to win that game tomorrow night, and then we'll rest the next day and try to do it again. And if all's right, we get to do 7 of them.
You looking at any lineup changes for tonight?
Just you, George, your out attitude? No, I'm not looking for any changes as of now, but I'll wait and see what we get.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you about the Black Aces.
Yeah.
You got a bunch of them up here. What is the plan working them? I mean, we haven't seen them on the. Do they work before or after?
After, so that if we run a full practice and we have a couple of guys missing, we can pull them into it. It's also because we start work here 6:30-ish straight through till 2:33 before the players' window is probably about a 5-hour block in that, and then it's just to keep the confusion down. We don't have that many numbers of players running all over. It lets us clean everything because with all the flus and stuff, we're still pretty hard on that. It gets clean the gym, get everything right for these guys to come in. But we also really want them to have and experience that drives them, that inspires them, right? It's a pretty nice building. Being in the NHL is better than being in the American League. They all know it. But having them around the energy of a playoff run is really, really important for them because we don't want them in the American League. We want them to push their way onto our team.
And I wanted to, and you don't have to answer the.
Thank you.
Zach Dalpe, why is he not been called up? Is that a personal thing? Maybe you guys are.
No, big fan of his. He's a good veteran pro. But I've got two other guys that I would probably put at center ice ahead of him when Sam's healthy. And he's got a young family. And he had a good run for us last year, right? He got that. So we just felt it was time to give some of the other young guys that black ace. He's had enough black ace experience.
That's what I meant by that.
Yeah,
I thought
that's
that maybe
that's
if he
fair.
wasn't going to play, why bring it?
Right, I don't have him right there. You know, if the same thing happened last, and you know he had to run 6-8 weeks to get into a game, sure he would. He's done it though. It just seemed respectful, maybe is the right way, because if you call him, he's coming. But we didn't call him up this year. We ran other players ahead of him. We brought in 2 players at the trade deadline. We've got the 2 younger guys up front. That's enough. I'm not going to lie to the guy and say, hey, you're right there, but he's not stupid.
Do they get that? This is a big deal. Hockey's just so different in this regard. Football has a practice squad, sure, and NBA teams have a
Yeah.
team. This is a big deal for a lot of those kids.
Yeah. Because we don't have the NHL and we don't operate on a practice squad, you're like the difference between 23 and 24 on your list is a huge freaking deal, right? And it's better here, and it's more fun here, and it's their lifelong dream. We do need to expose them to that. Inspiration's a really big part of, I think, young players from 20 to 22 pushing through to the next level that believe I can be there. They'll watch the games. They'll watch guys on our team. They'll say, I'm better than that guy. I can be better than that guy. I can do that job. So it's good for them to be part of it.
Did you check on Peter after his 48 hours?
No, I can't say that. I give him, it's usually a critique on certain things. Actually, you know what? That's not true. What are the last 10 texts we're all kind of different kinds of congratulations, whether it was something about our kids or big wins. Going back to last year, he sent 2 or 3 great ones during the Boston series, you know, just kind of cheering for you. Clearly, you know, he has history with Vegas. We have history with Vegas. He's a good friend of mine. I was really happy for him. I liked the way his team played. Kind of they got down 2. The world was coming to an end, but analytically, they weren't so bad in those games. They were pretty good. So you think he's got a good team? He's a good coach.
Well, I think you have to learn from him. You know, especially this time of year, you're playing the same team. You know, you try and learn as the series goes. Things you can do better. You know, defend a little bit harder. Get to their net a little bit more. Just the little things that give you success at this time of year that we can be a little bit better at.
Sam, the Bruins PK, what is it about them that's been so tough for you guys? I think you guys haven't gotten the power play goal against them in all 5 of the games you've gone against them.
Yeah, you know, they're obviously solid. You know, that's a strength of theirs. You know, I think just be a little bit more assertive, a little bit quicker, work off the net a little bit more. You know, don't need to look for the perfect play all the time. And you know, I think the more you can create around the net, the more plays will open up for us.
How do you create more around the net? Like, you know, Matthew was saying the other day that last night that you guys had a lot of volume, but really we're probably on the side too much, looking for backdoor.
Yeah, it's easy to look for the perfect play, and it's easier to defend when a team's looking for that perfect play. You know, I think the more chaos, the more you can create. Retrieving pucks, that's what makes it so hard to kill penalties on the defensive side of it. So the more we can create around the net, the more everything else will open up for us.
Can you sense, you know, like you've had it with Bob here, Swayman playing with confidence, and can you see that when you're getting more shots on him during a game?
For sure, he was solid last night. You got to give him credit. You know, there's always areas. You know, you can try and make it more challenging on a goalie, and that's certainly what we're going to try and do moving forward.
How much have you guys missed Sam Bennett since he's been out? I mean, I know you guys won the Tampa series, but I would think it'd be good to see him back in the lineup.
I mean that's you know that's a big person, big personality, a big presence in our lineup. So you know any chance you can get him back, hopefully sooner than later, that's obviously positive.
What makes him such a playoff? Like you look at him and sometimes you just like that's a playoff player. I mean, what makes him so? Such
Goes to the hard areas. You know, this time of year is always the time of year he steps up. You know, it's those heavy games that he thrives in, and doesn't shy away from.
Have you noticed anything different the way the Bruins played yesterday compared to the way they played it a year ago in the playoffs?
Maybe there's a couple of things that they've tweaked over the course of the year, but not nothing crazy that sticks out. I mean they were a tough opponent last year. They're a tough opponent this year. Obviously every year is different. You know, we're a different team as well. So you know you try and learn, you try and adapt things you can do a little bit better, and that's what we're trying to focus on today.
Sam, how was the ice last night? It just seemed like there was just, I know both teams play on it, but it just seemed like there was just a lot of weird bounces that you don't typically see at home.
Ice was fine.
When Lundell has had to move up with injuries like he has now, what's impressed you when you've been playing with him about him?
I think Lundy, when he's winning battles, when he's engaged, it's so evident. You know, I thought he stepped up tremendously in the Tampa series when Benny did go down. So it's been nice to kind of get back with him and Lucy a little bit. So hopefully we can start contributing a little bit on both sides of the rink a little bit more. But his defensive game's always going to be there. So that's what I like to see out of him.
With the experience you guys have in the playoffs the past couple of years, you know how long these series can be, right? They're not long, but they're, you know, you've got 7 games here. It's not a 1-game series. How do you, I don't know, tell the public that, because it seems like your fans are having a meltdown right now.
You know, I think it's so mentally challenging, the postseason. You know, when you're going through a series, the ups and downs, you can be up 3-0, lose a game in Tampa, and feels like the world's ending for a minute. Everything settles back down. And then you get through a series and you're kind of mentally relaxed for a little bit. So, you know, a game like last night will get you right back into it, and that's where you want to be. You want to be engaged. You want to be, you know, right in the thick of things. So, you know, we got a big test tomorrow, and we're looking forward to that challenge and learning how we can get better.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, obviously we look at a video and have meetings and all that, and then this team is so strong and have a big character, so we know we got to step up, and obviously we got to do this tomorrow.
When you look back at how game 1 unfolded, specifically the end of the second period, just what can you pinpoint as to basically what went wrong there?
Well, I think we just came off our game a bit. We're a bit sloppy, a bit slow. We just gotta trying to be better tomorrow.
And then on the power play, just what did you guys see? What wasn't working? What was Boston doing that kind of like stymied you guys?
I think that was overall our game. We're a bit slow. We're a bit off overall. So if we're sharp enough, it's going to go in.
I know you don't play with him very much, but Sam Bennett, is it back out there today? I mean, maybe he comes, but we don't know what the timeline, but what would it be like to get him back, and how much have you guys missed him?
Well, obviously he's a great player, and obviously he's a big part of our group and our team. So whenever he'll be back, it'll be a huge boost for us.
With the way Swayman is playing, how do you maybe just make his life a little harder?
Well, obviously if you get him in front of him, if he sees the puck, it's makes it a lot easier to save. So try to not get him to see the puck and make it hard on him.
Can you sense when a goalie's in a rhythm like that? Like, can you sense, like, you've seen it with Bob on your side, I'm sure, you know? Like,
Yeah, you just gotta make sure he doesn't see the puck. That's the biggest key. Like, if you don't see the puck, it's hard to make the save. So that's what we're gonna focus on.
Any other questions? Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.